Alrighty, I am back after a long absence. I am back on YouTube. I don't know if any of you guys remember me, but I did a bunch of Canadian football, CFL Football Frenzy videos about a year ago or over a year ago. Um, but now I'm trying something new. I'm going to try and go into kind of a NBA sports talk radio. I've been an NBA fan for a really long time. I'm a huge fan of the Portland Trailblazers, and I watch a ton of NBA games. Not just the Trailblazers games, but a bunch of teams' games. Um, and so I'd like to do like a sports talk show about the NBA, and eventually I'd like to have it so I could go live, so I could interact with you guys if that's something you're into. And again, let me know if this is something you guys would like for me to continue, or maybe for me to go back to video games. I don't know. I'm trying this out, but let me know what you think. But this is something that I've wanted to do for a while. And so, yeah, I guess let's kind of jump into it. So, what I wanted to do is I kind of wanted to do like a preview slash overview, because we're only 2 weeks into the NBA season right now, of each division. You know, the three divisions in each conference, East and West. But because I don't want to, I don't want to talk for an hour. Because there's a lot to talk about with, and the first division that we're doing, sorry, I forgot to mention, is the Pacific Division in the Western Conference. And because I don't want to speak for an hour about the Lakers and the Clippers and the Warriors, which are all three teams that have a lot of conversation right now and a lot of national media. And so that's what I'm going to try and do, really. I'm going to try and get a lot of the stories not covered by the national media. Just, things that most people aren't talking about. Small things, success stories, people struggling. It could be a lot of various things. You'll see some of them in the video today. So the two teams that we're going to talk about, moving on, are the Sacramento Kings and the Phoenix Suns. So both teams have been surprises so far. So right now the Sacramento Kings are 2-5, and the Phoenix Suns are 5-2. So usually, you'd think it's the opposite. And again, before we jump into it, just let me know, guys, if this is something that you'll want to see in the future. Again, I'm just trying this out because this is something I've wanted to do. If you think I should go back to video games, just tell me to go back to video games, because I am open to your suggestions. So, moving into it, let's get into the Kings. So the Kings, starting out 2-5, right? This was not supposed to be a typical Kings year. They go 41-41 last year. They fire their head coach. They bring in Luke Walton, which we'll talk about in a second. And they've come out and they've disappointed everybody so far. When you think of the Sacramento Kings recently, you think of what? You think of fast-paced play, and offense. This team gets buckets. What does this team not do? They don't defend. They are one of the worst defensive teams in the entire NBA. But so far this season, they haven't done either. They haven't defended well, and they haven't scored well or efficiently at all. So that brings up the first topic of discussion, is Luke Walton. So they went 41-41 last year. Great improvement. They were one win away from their first winning season in like 7 years or something. The Kings have had it rough lately. And it was really good to see them have some success. They were the 9th seed in the West, but they missed the playoffs by 7 games or something. But it was still a great surprise story. So, I mean, this is just it was great to see. And then they went out and they fired their head coach, and they brought in Luke Walton. And as if to signal that it wasn't going to be, it was going to be a cursed signing. After what he did with LeBron, LeBron missed like a playoff berth for the first time in however many years. It's been a long time since LeBron's missed a playoffs. Immediately after Luke Walton gets signed, he gets rape charges against him. So I mean, that should just be a sign right there that it's bad luck out of the get-go. But what I've heard about Luke Walton and what is showing, and I think is not, it just, I don't see the fit in the signing. Luke Walton's a win-now coach. He's a coach that likes to play fast, which fits to the Kings' strength. But he's a win-now guy. That's great. The Kings are trying to make the playoffs. The Kings are not going to win the championship. They're not going to win the championship for a long time. For a long time. Okay. The Kings are just trying to make a playoff berth. Okay, hello, Mom. They're just trying to make a playoff berth. That is simply it. That's why I don't understand bringing in Luke Walton. Because these guys, Luke Walton has been accused of not developing guys. He's been a bad coach for development. He's been a win-now coach and has not developed young players well. That was Magic's biggest critique on him in LA. He said he didn't, and he's right. Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram didn't get better last year. They didn't get better. And, they were their two most prized assets, before LeBron. And I don't like the fit. I don't like the fit at all. If he can't develop it, you need a coach who can develop these guys. You're not going for an NBA championship. That's why I have a problem with Luke Walton. If he cannot develop these guys, he is useless. De'Aaron Fox, he's their star player, 21 years old still. Buddy Hield, he's, maybe 26? Still a young guy. Marvin Bagley, 20 years old. Bogdan Bogdanovic, 25. These guys are all really, really young. And I just don't like the signing. I don't think it makes sense. They're off to a bad start. I don't know if he's going to work well with these guys, and if he doesn't, he's going to get his ass fired. The first year, they're going to fire him. There's a limit to win now. I guess is what I'm trying to say. That the Kings are trying to make the playoffs and still develop their guys. That is their goal. That is their objective. They're not going to win the championship, but they're not tanking because this is a very talented team. Very talented team. So anyways, I don't like the Luke Walton signing. Moving on. The two star players of the Sacramento Kings, De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield, are not off to the greatest start this season. And that's why I said their offense has not been very good, because neither one of them have been very efficient. Fox is getting 19 a game. Hield's getting 17 a game. They're both shooting about basically 40% from the field for both of them. Hield's shooting 37% from three, which is not bad, but still for him, he should be a 40% three-point shooter. And De'Aaron Fox is shooting 33%. That's a little lower than what we're expecting for him. These guys aren't cutting it right now. If you are not going to play defense very well, and they haven't shown that they're going to play better defense this season, which is another critique hit on them. These guys have to play better. The Kings run and score efficiently. That's their strategy. They're the fastest paced, they're one of the fastest paced teams in the NBA. They run and they score efficiently. Right now, they're not scoring very many points per game. I'm not sure what the number is. I mean, your best two players, De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield, combining for 40%, not going to cut it. So, that's just another glimpse of the Kings' struggles so far. Another thing that's really big and disappointing for this team, we're going to talk about a player or two that's been disappointing and a player that's been surprising. For each of these two teams today, we'll try it out. The first player, and this one really is disappointing me, is Bogdan Bogdanovic. So right now, Bogdan's getting 9.5 points per game, which you're thinking, that's not that bad. But he's shooting 30% from the floor and 29% from three and 60% from the free throw line. This guy is off to an atrocious start to this NBA season. And why it's so sad to see. Bogdan, he was a draft stash player. Came over, I think, maybe 2 years ago. A year or two ago. And he's played well. He came over, I think, I'm not sure what country he came over from. Maybe Croatia. Maybe they're from Croatia. I can't remember. He's played well as a King. He's averaged double digits. He's been pretty efficient. He's been a solid shooter for them. And a good sixth man off the bench, a pleasant surprise for a draft stash guy. And this year's a contract year for him. And, at the beginning of the season, he sat down with the general manager and the owner and he tried to get a deal worked out. And I think he was asking for something like $12 million a year. Not sure for how many years, maybe 3. And they basically laughed in his face and said, that you're not playing to that level right now. We're not going to pay you that amount of money for how you've been playing. And so this is not the result you want out of this kid. They did that to motivate him. Sure, they might not pay him $12 million, period. No matter how well he does. I don't know. But this kid, in the 2 Kings games that I've watched, this kid looks so unmotivated. He's taking bad shots. He's playing lazy defense. He just looks like he doesn't care. And he doesn't want to be there. Because he didn't get his contract extension before the season started. Like, he feels like, I don't know, things are over for him or something. Which is ridiculous. I mean, owners, GMs, everywhere do this. Players come to them asking for an extension before the year of their final contract, their final year of their contract. They say, no, we need to see more out of you. And, we've seen some players, most players have their best season to date that season. I can give you multiple examples. One example was on this team last year, Willie Cauley-Stein. He was the 6th pick in the 2015 draft. And, he really hadn't amounted to much until last year. Last year, he starts at center all year. He gets like 16 points a game, almost averages a double-double. At the end of the season, he asked for a $20 million contract. The Kings laughed in his face and said, get the hell out. And I think he signed a $5.7 million mid-level exception with the Warriors. So he really ended up making like hay pennies for what he did, but it was still impressive to see that kind of output from him. He looked like a really good player, actually. He's a great lob threat and played good defense. But anyways, and another example, D'Angelo Russell. Is D'Angelo Russell really that good? Is he a perennial all-star? I don't think so. But he earned himself a max contract with how well he played last year. I mean, the kid got, 22 points a game or whatever. Played great. First time All-Star in the East. Good for him. He single-handedly led the Nets to the playoffs. He played terrible in the playoffs, but they were playing a really good Sixers team. So, is deloading? I mean, he's not going to... Could he play like he did in Brooklyn? Could he be as efficient? Could he take as smart shots? Could he be as good of a passer? I think so. But I wouldn't count on it. So, that's just an example. Again, Bogdanovic, this is just sad to see from him. I just gave you some of those examples just because there are so many examples of players having their best season to date by far on contract years so they can get the money. That's like NBA players' biggest goal. A lot of players say that's not true, but for most players, that is true. Getting the money is the goal. So, it's sad to see this from him. Hopefully this guy turns it around because I really actually like him, or I liked him as a player. I'm not a huge fan of him right now. His motivation looks like it's gone, and that's just the opposite of what you want to see out of him. You want to see some fight. You want to see an increase in production, increase in efficiency. And maybe he won't get what he wants if he gets that, and he plays well, better, like they want him to. Maybe he won't get $12 million like he's asking for, but he's still gonna get paid and get what he deserves. So, anyways, we're gonna move on to the Phoenix Suns now. The Phoenix Suns are 5-2 to start the season, and we were talking about earlier, there's a surprise and a disappointment. This is an example of a surprise and disappointment. The Kings are the disappointment, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Phoenix Suns are the surprise. People are saying that the Phoenix Suns, all of their success right now is based off of hustle, and that they can't keep hustle up for 82 straight games to get into the playoffs. Do I think that's true? Partially. Do I think this team can make the playoffs in the West? No. There's too much talent in the West. You can't tell me that they can find a way to make the playoffs. I know they're not going to keep this up, but can they have a winning record at the end of the season? Absolutely. Absolutely. They can beat enough Eastern Conference teams and play well enough and, upset people like they already have against the Sixers and the Clippers, two of the best teams in the NBA. This team looks incredible. Incredible so far. So let's talk about two guys that have been disappointing so far, and let's talk about two guys that have been surprising on this Suns team. First guy on the Suns is Dario Saric. So Dario Saric was brought over from Minnesota, and I was really high on this kid. I'm not really as high on him anymore, but this kid might have already peaked in his basketball career, as sad enough as it is to say, in Philadelphia. That season where he got 14 or 15 a game and shot almost 40% from three. He was an absolute sniper. He was one of the Sixers' best three-point shooters that year. They have Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid's a pretty good three-point shooter, but Dario Saric was one of their best three-point shooters. He really was. He disappointed in Minnesota, but I thought this was his chance, in Phoenix. Most people can, come to Phoenix and put up numbers. But this year, Phoenix looks like they're a really win-oriented team, which is great. Great for them so far. Right now, Sarge is getting almost 9 a game. 9 points a game, shooting 40% from the field, 33% from three, along with 62% from the free throw line. This was sad to see because I was thinking in this role, he could either start at the power forward or be like the sixth man, first guy off the bench for the Suns. I was expecting them to spread the floor a lot, him to get a lot of open threes, and he's a stretch four. He's a great stretch four. Ideally, he's a great stretch four, but he's a stretch four. That's what he is. And I mean, listen, Dario Saric doesn't defend. He's not a great passer. Dario Saric comes out there to be efficient and hit shots. Hit threes, specifically. And right now, he's just not getting it done. I don't know if it's the offense that Phoenix is running. I don't know if it's their play style. But, he wasn't really playing great last year in Minnesota. So, it's a questionable topic of whether... I hope this guy gets it together. Because, again, I was high on the kid. He's still only 24. Hopefully he figures it out. Because he sure looked like he had a lot of upside. I really hope he hasn't peaked in his NBA career. But right now, he's been pretty disappointing to start the season. So the first guy that's been surprising so far is Aron Baynes. And I know, that even surprises me to say. Aron Baynes. He was like the Celtics' third center a couple of years ago. This guy was a nobody. Most Celtics fans didn't even really like him much. But this guy has come on strong. Celtics let him walk. The Suns picked him up in free agency. And I thought, he'll get some minutes off. He'll get some minutes off the bench. But with Ayton, suspended for the growth hormone thing, which John Collins also got suspended for today, actually. Aron Baynes steps in as the starting center for the Suns, and he's been killing it. He's been absolutely killing it. The man's getting 15 points a game, shooting almost 60% from the field, and 50% from three. Oh my goodness. I wouldn't expect in a million years from Aron Baynes to shoot this well and play this well. He's playing out of his mind. The Suns brought him in for some defense because they don't really play defense. They're actually playing pretty decent defense this year, actually, which is why they're winning right now. But Aron Baynes is killing it. Will he keep it up? Can he shoot 60% from the field if he's taking that many threes? Probably not. It's pretty hard to shoot 60% from the field, even if you're a center who only dunks the ball and puts up layups. Doesn't even take jump shots. So, Aron Baynes has been a huge surprise. We'll see if he continues his production and, until DeAndre Ayton comes back, and when DeAndre Ayton comes back, we'll see what happens to Aron Baynes. So the other guy that's been disappointing is Frank the Tank Kaminsky. And I believe Frank the Tank has been starting at the 4 for the Suns so far. So far, he's getting 11 points a game, shooting 36% from the field and 18% from three. Frank the Tank, so far in the NBA, he's been a pretty good player. Starting some and not starting some in Charlotte. He's been a solid stretch 4, stretch 5 for them. He's gotten double digits for the majority of his career. And, on Charlotte Hornets teams that were competing for the playoffs, they were never really playing meaningless basketball like they are now. I know we're only 6 or 7 games into the season, but the Charlotte Hornets aren't going to win anything, this season. They're really just playing for the future. But, that's for another time. Frank Kaminsky, I thought, again, coming to the Phoenix Suns, he was going to have a good season. He's going to flourish in this role where he could be a stretch big on a team that stretches the floor a lot and has a passer like Ricky Rubio who can get him the ball in space. So, I mean, Frank Kaminsky, again, he's very similar to Dario Saric. Doesn't defend well. He's not a guy that you put in isolation and tell him, or even post-ups, tell him to just go get buckets. This guy spreads the floor, he shoots well, and he's efficient. That's why he plays. That's why he's in the NBA. Shooting 18% from three. I mean, I'm probably exaggerating, making a bigger deal out of this than it should be. But shooting 18% from three in the NBA does not cut it. So I'm hoping for Frank the Tank. And maybe this is just, I'm not sure. It makes me think that maybe it's just stretch 4, stretch 5 guys don't work with the Suns. But Aaron Baines is shooting the lights out from three right now. So, could just be slow shooting starts. I don't know. But, not a great start for Frank the Tank Kaminsky. So the last guy we're going to talk about is Kelly Oubre Jr. So Kelly Oubre Jr. signed a 2-year, $30 million contract with them this offseason. He was the 3rd overall pick in the 2014 draft. This guy, people didn't label him as a bust, but people labeled him as a disappointment. He's never had really bad seasons in the NBA. I mean, he's always been a double-digit scorer. He's gotten like 11 or 12 per game on mediocre efficiency throughout his career. And I never thought they treated him right in Washington. I thought they had a weird thing going how neither Otto Porter Jr. or Kelly Oubre could really flourish in that offense. There's a lot of things going wrong in Washington right now, but again, that's for another time. Right now, Kelly Oubre averaging 17 points a game, 49% from the field, and 36% from three, along with 83% free throw percentage. I mean, this guy's killing it right now. This guy is absolutely killing it right now. This guy is is an overview, just like encompasses what the Phoenix Suns are right now. Plays hard, runs in transition, gets on the floor for loose balls, goes all out for when the entire time he's on the court. I'm not sure how many minutes he's playing. I'm pretty sure it's close to 30, maybe a little above, maybe a little below. But he's starting at the 3 for them right now. And he's living up to his potential. Do I think this, some of the other stats like Baines, is Baines going to keep that up? Probably not. But it's good for him right now, Oubre can most definitely keep this up. He gets easy buckets in transition. For a wing, he gets a lot of dunks. Easy baskets for the Suns team. And if he can knock down open three-pointers, this guy is a tough player to defend. He's really long, can get to the basket, if he's getting to a spot to knock him down, he's a lethal player, and that's why he was drafted number 3 overall. And it looks like right now he's living up to his potential, so that's good to see out of him. Kelly Oubre, he's been one of the players that I've always liked, as a fan of the NBA. I've always liked this guy, and I always thought that Washington mistreated him and that he was a better player than he showed there. And right now he's proven me right. So I hope he keeps that up. Anyways, it's about all I got for episode 1, just going over those first 2 teams. Again, I said I would like to make this so I can go live in the future and talk about this stuff, but this is what we're stuck with right now. If you like this, please tell me and comment below if this is a cool idea to you guys, or if you're like, no, this is dumb, go back to video games. I could do that too. Be creative. This is just something I wanted to try out. So again, let me know what you think, and see you next time, I guess.